The man in the linen shirt. The sun glistened on the calm blue waters off the coast of Sardinia. The ocean shimmered like a mirror of sky, gentle waves lapping against the side of a majestic white yacht. Laughter echoed across the deck. Rich, crisp and arrogant. On board, a group of wealthy guests mingled in designer outfits, sipping expensive champagne and discussing everything from hedge funds to which celebrity they'd seen at the Monte Carlo casino last weekend. The yacht was called the Starlight, and it was everything the name suggested: exclusive, radiant, and unreachable. Among the guests was a woman named Bella. She wasn't part of their world. She had arrived as a guest of her friend Monique, who had been invited by a tech billionaire's wife. Bella wore a simple white sundress and sandals. She didn't belong to the world of pearls and plastic smiles. She came from a small town, where kindness mattered more than brand names. She stood at the edge of the deck, away from the others, watching the waves and soaking in the peaceful rhythm of the sea. She didn't know her presence had already upset some of the other guests. They whispered behind manicured hands. "She's so plain," one of the women murmured. "Monique should know better," said another. Then came the sound of approaching footsteps, sharp, purposeful. A man named Devon, heir to a media empire, walked over with his blazer tossed over his shoulder like he was always preparing for a magazine shoot. He wore entitlement like a second skin. "Hey," he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You enjoying the view?" Bella nodded politely. "Yes, it's beautiful." "Yeah, must be nice to experience it for the first time." Bella tilted her head. "It is. Nature doesn't care who owns what." His grin faded just slightly. He wasn't used to people not playing along. "Look," he said, glancing over his shoulder. "Not to be rude, but you kind of stand out. Maybe this isn't your kind of crowd." Bella blinked. "I was invited. By Monique, who should have known better." He leaned in, lowering his voice. "Some people belong here. Others don't." Before she could answer, there was a splash behind them. Everyone turned. A man had just climbed onto the lower rear platform of the yacht, soaking wet, salt water dripping from his hair and linen shirt. It was Keanu Reeves. Only no one recognized him. He had grown out a thick beard, his hair longer than usual, his eyes hidden behind plain sunglasses. He looked like a wanderer who had just swum to shore from an island. He smiled and gave a small wave. "Hey, sorry. I just swam over from my paddleboard. I was told this was a friendly crew." The host, Marshall, a silver-haired oil investor, looked stunned. You're not part of the guest list." "Nope," Keanu said cheerfully. "But I saw a few people on board and thought I'd stop by. Figured maybe someone could offer a dry towel." Marshall stepped forward, looking around at the others. They were already pulling out their phones, whispering, mocking the wet stranger. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave," Marshall said coldly. "This is a private event." Keanu shrugged. "No problem." He turned, about to dive back in, when someone muttered, "What a loser." He paused, then he turned back around. Slowly, almost sadly. "You know," he said softly, "you can tell a lot about people by how they treat someone they think is beneath them." Bella's eyes widened. She recognized his voice. Something about it tugged at her memory. Then it hit her. She had seen a video of him speaking at a cancer fundraiser. That calm, soft-spoken voice. It was him. But the others still didn't get it. Keanu gave her a small nod, then dove into the sea with grace. The laughter resumed. Someone said, "What a weirdo." And they toasted their drinks like nothing had happened. But Bella's gaze stayed on the water, watching the ripples fade. The next morning, the yacht docked in a small private marina. As the guests prepared to leave for a beach brunch, a sleek black car pulled up at the pier. A uniformed captain stepped out, followed by several crew members. They approached the yacht and saluted. "We're here to board and prepare the Starlight," the captain announced. Marshall looked confused. "What do you mean? This is my chartered trip." The captain looked at his clipboard. "The yacht has been recalled by its owner. We've been instructed to prepare for his arrival." "Owner?" Marshall snapped. I paid for this. Yes, sir, the captain said calmly. But ownership doesn't transfer with a weekend payment. The yacht remains under the control of Mr. Reeves. Marshall's face turned pale. Bella gasped. What did you say? She asked. Mr. Reeves. Keanu Reeves, the captain confirmed. He's arriving shortly by helicopter. A silence fell over the entire pier. Suddenly, the rich guests weren't laughing anymore. And just then, in the distance, they heard it. The soft hum of rotors. The owner returns. The wind from the approaching helicopter sent hair flying and napkins skittering across the dock like frightened birds. All eyes were locked. On the sky, the guests squinted upward, shielding their eyes from the morning sun. The black helicopter descended slowly, smooth and confident, like it had done this many times before. As it landed near the private pier, its side door slid open. Keanu Reeves stepped out. His hair was still damp from his morning swim, but this time he wore a dark blue suit with no tie. Simple, elegant, unbothered. His face was calm, but there was something unreadable in his eyes. The same man who had been laughed at, mocked, and thrown off the yacht just the day before, now walked like he owned the ocean itself. And he did. The crew lined up on the dock and saluted him. Welcome back, Mr. Reeves, the captain said. Keanu nodded and smiled. Thanks, Charlie. Everything good on board? Yes, sir, except you've got some extra passengers uninvited, I believe. Keanu turned toward the yacht, where Marshall, Devon, and the others were frozen in place. Bella stood off to the side, clutching her beach bag tightly. Her eyes met his. He gave her the smallest nod. Keanu stepped aboard the yacht. The silence was unbearable. Finally, Marshall spoke up. This must be some mistake. We were told this yacht was available for charter. It was, Keanu said quietly. But not to people like you. Devon stepped forward, stammering. Okay, look, we didn't know who you were yesterday. All right? You just showed up soaking wet, looking like some random guy. And how did you treat me? Keanu asked. No one answered. Keanu looked out over the sea. This boat isn't about showing off. I use it to take kids from children's hospitals out into the open water, or to bring war veterans to a place where the waves help them heal. It's not a playground for cruelty. He turned slowly to Marshall. You invited people who laughed at a stranger because he looked different, because he didn't fit your mold. Marshall was sweating now. Look, if we offended you, you didn't offend me, Keanu said. You exposed yourselves. He looked at Bella. Except you, he said gently. The guests all turned toward her. Bella looked down, nervous. I didn't know who you were either. That's what made it real, Keanu said. You didn't need to know, you were kind anyway. Bella's throat tightened. He looked back at Marshall. You'll be refunded in full, but this trip is over. Marshall clenched his fists. You can't just kick us off like this. Keanu raised an eyebrow. Can't I? Within minutes, the crew began escorting the guests off the yacht. Some protested. Others were just embarrassed. Devon tried to save face, pulling out his phone and pretending to take a business call. But no one was fooled. Bella stood on the deck, unsure if she should go too. Keanu turned to her. You're welcome to stay. She blinked. Me? Yes, he said with a soft smile. I think this place could use someone like you. That afternoon, the yacht cut through the waves, now quiet and peaceful. Bella sat beside Keanu on the upper deck, wrapped in a warm towel. The wind blew gently through her hair. So, she said, finally breaking the silence, you really own this whole thing? Keanu smiled. I do. Kind of stumbled into it. I wanted to get away from the noise. So I bought this and made it into something useful. You help a lot of people? I try, he said. I think we all can. It doesn't have to be flashy, just honest. She nodded. So what about you? He asked. What brings you into that world? Bella shrugged. I'm not really part of it. My friend Monique got me the invite. I work as a caregiver for elderly patients. It's not fancy, but it matters. Keanu looked at her for a long moment. Sounds like the kind of work that changes lives. Not as much as yours, she said. He shook his head. You'd be surprised. As evening fell, the sea glowed with orange light. Bella stood at the railing, watching the sunset. For the first time in a long while, she felt seen. Not for how she looked or who she knew, but for who she really was. Keanu joined her, holding 2 mugs of hot tea. He handed her one. You know, he said softly, most people think power is about money or control, but sometimes it's just about doing what's right when no one else will. Bella looked up at him. Thank you for letting me stay. He smiled. You stayed because you belong. And in that moment on the wide open sea, something shifted. Not between rich and poor, not between celebrity and stranger, but between 2 souls who had seen the worst in others, and still chose to be kind. But just when the peace settled in, a loud horn blared in the distance. Another vessel approached, fast. Bella turned, squinting. Is that another yacht? Keanu stepped forward, eyes narrowing. No, that's not a yacht, that's trouble. And with that, a new chapter began. The sea was no longer calm. The storm behind the waves. The sound grew louder as the mysterious vessel cut across the waves with urgency. It was dark gray, sharp-edged, almost military in design. No party lights, no music, just raw engine power, carving a path through the ocean like it had a purpose, and that purpose wasn't friendly. Keanu stood at the bow of the Starlight, the wind whipping his hair across his face, his tea forgotten on the deck behind him. Bella stepped beside him, tension tightening her grip on the railing. You weren't expecting visitors, were you? She asked, her voice low. He shook his head slowly. No. And that's not a rental boat either. They're coming for something. Or someone, she said softly. The gray vessel pulled up alongside the Starlight. Several men in black uniforms stood aboard, wearing earpieces and serious expressions. One of them stepped forward and cupped his hands around his mouth. Mr. Reeves, he shouted, we need to speak with you. Now. The crew on Keanu's yacht shifted nervously. The captain approached Keanu's side. They're not government, he muttered. But they're organized. Private security, maybe, or worse. Keanu nodded. Keep Bella inside the lounge. Tell the crew to stay calm. And you? The captain asked. I'll talk to them. Inside the lounge, Bella watched from behind the curtain, heart pounding. Her instincts screamed that something wasn't right. The man at the front of the strange boat had a scar down his neck and carried himself like he was used to being obeyed. Keanu stood tall at the edge of the deck, arms crossed. What's this about? He called out calmly. You were seen yesterday at a private marina near Kayla Luna, the scarred man said. You spoke to someone there. You left something behind. Keanu narrowed his eyes. You're mistaken. I didn't leave anything. The man's expression hardened. Don't play games. We know you gave her the key. Keanu's voice dropped. I think you've got the wrong man. The scarred man smirked. No, Mr. Reeves, we've got the right one. Without another word, they tossed a small black case onto the Starlight's deck. Keanu knelt and opened it carefully. Inside was a photo of a young woman. She looked scared, holding a satchel. Next to the photo was a memory chip and a folded note. His jaw tightened. Bella saw the change in his face. She came outside. Keanu, what is it? He closed the case quickly and handed it to the captain. Lock this up. Don't let anyone open it. The scarred man stepped closer to the railing. We don't want trouble. Give us what we came for, and we're gone. Keanu's voice was quiet but firm. You won't get it, and you won't hurt her. Her? Bella whispered. Who's her? Keanu looked into her eyes. My goddaughter. She's been running from a group that wants to silence her. She uncovered something dangerous. She was supposed to meet me yesterday. She never made it. Bella's eyes widened. You think she was on that marina? I'm sure of it, he said. The scarred man tapped his wrist mic. Plan B. Suddenly, loud blasts echoed as ropes shot onto the deck of the Starlight. Armed men began boarding. "Get inside," Keanu shouted. Bella ran for the lounge, heart slamming against her ribs. The crew scrambled to secure the doors. The captain radioed for backup from the Coast Guard, but the signal jammed before he could finish. Keanu stood his ground as 3 intruders rushed at him. The first swung a baton. Keanu ducked, twisted, and slammed his elbow into the man's ribs. The second came from behind. Keanu spun and swept his leg, knocking the man overboard. The third lunged with a stun device, but Keanu blocked it with a metal tray and kicked him square in the chest. Bella watched from the window, breathless. He wasn't acting. This wasn't a movie, this was real. He moved with precision, not rage. Like a man who had trained not to hurt but to protect. The scarred man yelled, "You don't want this fight, Reeves." Keanu grabbed a flare gun from the emergency locker and pointed it skyward. "You made the wrong choice," he fired. The red streak of light arced through the air like a warning to the heavens. Minutes passed. The attackers regrouped, trying to break into the main cabin where Bella and the crew were hiding. Outside, Keanu held them back with everything he had. No weapons, just instinct, experience, and resolve. Then, in the distance, they heard it. The deep thrum of another boat engine. A large white security yacht appeared on the horizon. Speeding toward them with lights flashing, the attackers panicked. "Abort! Get out!" They scrambled back to their gray vessel and peeled away, vanishing into the open sea just as quickly as they had arrived. The security yacht arrived moments later. Uniformed, guards leapt aboard the Starlight and fanned out. The captain ran to Keanu. "You all right, sir?" Keanu nodded, catching his breath. His shirt was torn, his hands scraped, but he stood tall. "They'll be back," he said, "and we need to find her before they do." Bella stepped out from the lounge, shaken. "Find who?" Keanu looked at her with a seriousness that sent chills down her spine. "The girl in the photo. She's hiding somewhere near this coast, and if we don't get to her first, she won't survive." Later that night, in the quiet below deck, Keanu sat with Bella at a small table. The black case sat between them. He opened it again and handed her the photo. Bella studied the girl's face. She had big eyes, a soft expression, and a bruise under one of her cheeks. "Her name is Layla," he said softly. "Her mother was a whistleblower. She died 2 years ago under strange circumstances. Layla found something buried in her mother's belongings, something that proves everything." "What kind of everything?" Bella whispered. "Corruption, government ties, secret transactions, things people kill to keep quiet." Bella looked up. "And you took her in?" Keanu nodded. "I promised. Her mother, I'd protect her if anything ever happened. She's just 16, but she's smart, she's scared, and she's alone out there." Bella stared at the photo, her own heart aching. "Then we need to find her." Keanu's eyes searched hers. "You don't have to be part of this, Bella." "I want to be," she said without hesitation. "I'm not leaving you. Not now." He smiled, a quiet strength behind his eyes. "Then let's bring her home." But as they made plans, in the shadows of a rocky cove nearby, a trembling girl with wild eyes clutched the same photo, a matching photo of herself that Keanu once gave her. She was cold, hungry, and being watched. From the cliff above, a figure whispered into a radio. "Target located. She's alone, awaiting orders." The girl in the shadows, the rocky cove where Layla hid, was quiet, except for the soft crash of waves and the cry of distant gulls. Tucked between jagged stones and the entrance to a shallow sea cave, she sat with her knees pulled to her chest, arms wrapped tightly around herself. She had been hiding for 2 days, barely eating, barely sleeping. The bruises on her face had darkened. Her fingers trembled from the cold and from fear. Her only companion was a small photo, one she clutched as though it were life itself. In it, a smiling Keanu Reeves stood beside her mother, both looking proud and peaceful. The memory felt like it belonged to another world. Above her, on the cliff, the shadowed figure still watched. "Confirmed target. She's not moving," the man whispered into his headset. "Orders?" The voice on the other end crackled. Wait for extraction, don't engage, we want her alive. For now. On the starlight, Bella woke before sunrise. She stepped onto the quiet deck where Keanu stood staring at the horizon, arms folded, the wind brushing gently through his hair. Couldn't sleep? She asked softly. He shook his head. Thinking. About her? About what we're walking into, he said. This isn't just a rescue, it's a war that's been building for years. And Layla, she's the spark. Bella stepped beside him. Then let's make sure she doesn't burn alone. He looked at her, the corners of his mouth lifting ever so slightly. You speak like someone who's been through fire. Maybe, she said. Or maybe I just know how it feels when no one comes looking for you. Keanu nodded slowly. Then we make sure she knows someone is. They docked at a nearby fishing village that morning. The place was quiet, the kind of spot where strangers stood out quickly. Keanu and Bella moved carefully, dressed down, eyes alert. They met with a trusted contact, an old sailor named Marco who once worked with Keanu's charity years ago. Marco pulled out a rough map and pointed to the coastline. I've seen a girl wandering near this section, he said. 3 nights ago she looked scared. Barefoot, stayed hidden. That's her, Keanu said. If she's still alive, Marco added. Bella's voice was steady. She is. We'll find her. Marco handed Keanu a satellite phone and a flare. If you get her out, call me, I'll arrange pickup. Keanu placed a hand on his friend's shoulder. Thank you. Be careful, Marco said. This coast has eyes. Hours later, Keanu and Bella hiked along the cliffs, following Marco's directions. The sun beat down hard, and the trail grew steeper with every turn. They reached a ledge overlooking a jagged stretch of beach below. Bella pointed. That cave down there. Do you see it? Keanu raised his binoculars. I do, and someone else does too. On the opposite cliff, hidden in the brush, he spotted the man with the headset. They found her, he whispered. But they haven't moved yet. Then we still have time. They climbed down carefully, using ropes from the emergency bag. Halfway down, Bella slipped on loose gravel, but Keanu caught her arm just in time. You all right? He asked. She nodded, breathless. Yeah, just didn't want to fall before we finish this. They reached the beach, moving quietly between rocks. Keanu whispered, Stay low. Let me go first. No, Bella said. She might be scared. Let me try. He looked at her for a moment, then nodded. Bella stepped carefully toward the cave, hands visible, voice soft. Layla, she called. It's okay. I'm a friend of Keanu's. We're here to help. Silence. Then a rustle. A figure stepped halfway out of the shadows. Layla's eyes were wide with panic. She clutched a small bag to her chest, ready to run. Don't be scared, Bella said gently. He promised your mom, didn't he? Layla blinked. Bella took a slow step closer. He's here. He's really here. Layla's lip trembled. They tried to take me. I know, Bella said. But you're safe now. Keanu appeared behind Bella, hands raised. When Layla saw him, her knees buckled. He rushed forward and caught her. I'm sorry. She whispered. I lost the drive. I dropped it when they chased me. Keanu shook his head. You're the only thing that matters. She clung to him, trembling. Bella looked up toward the cliff. We need to go. Now. But as they turned back, toward the rocks, they heard the whirring of a drone above. The voice echoed from a hidden speaker. You've got 5 minutes, Mr. Reeves. Give her up, or this ends badly. Keanu growled under his breath. They've been watching us. The drone fired a warning shot, just inches from where they stood. Bella grabbed Layla's hand. We don't have time to run back up. Keanu scanned the cave's edge. Then he spotted something. A narrow underwater tunnel. There's a way out, he said. But we'll have to swim. Layla froze. I can't. I don't know how. Bella knelt. Then hold on to me, I've got you. Keanu tied the flare to his belt, grabbed the waterproof satchel and led the way. On three, he said. They dove under just as the cliffs erupted in gunfire. Under the sea, the tunnel twisted and turned. Cold, dark, endless. Keanu led the way, with the faint red light of the flare illuminating jagged coral walls. Bella swam behind him, clutching Layla close. The girl gasped for air as they reached pockets of breath between submerged rock ceilings. They kept moving, a final push. And then, daylight. They burst from the water into a hidden lagoon, surrounded by steep cliffs and jungle. A small motorboat waited at the far end. Marco stood at the wheel. "Get in," he shouted. They scrambled aboard just as more gunfire echoed behind them. "Go!" Keanu yelled. The boat roared to life. They sped away, salt water spraying their faces, leaving the danger behind. For now. Layla curled up in Bella's arms, shivering. "You're safe now," Bella whispered. But Keanu knew better. This wasn't over. They had one shot to end this, and it meant returning to the city with the truth they tried to bury. The sun was setting behind the hills as Marco's boat pulled into a narrow inlet hidden behind dense mangroves. It was a small dock used by fishermen, far from the eyes of luxury resorts and private harbors. The water here was calm, still catching the last glimmers of gold and orange in its quiet reflection. Keanu stepped onto the dock first, soaked, bruised, but steady. Bella helped Layla out of the boat, wrapping her in a dry blanket they had found, tucked in a locker. Marco watched them quietly. "This place is safe. For tonight." "Thank you," Keanu said, his voice sincere. "You didn't have to help." Marco nodded. "We all have a line, and I saw mine when I saw that girl's face." Layla looked up, her voice soft and shaky. "Is it true? My mom trusted you?" Keanu crouched down in front of her. "She did. She believed in you, and she knew the truth you found could change everything." Bella sat beside Layla and took her hand. "Do you still have it? The real copy?" Layla hesitated, then reached into her small satchel and pulled out a thin, waterproof pouch. Inside was a memory chip. Her hands shook as she handed it over. "They got the decoy I dropped," she whispered. "But this is the real one. It has voice recordings, files, everything my mom saved before she disappeared." Keanu's jaw clenched. "We need to get it out, to someone who can't be bought." Marco crossed his arms. "You'll need more than honesty. These people, whoever they are, they don't play fair. They own media, security firms, maybe even parts of the police." Bella looked at Keanu. "Do you have anyone you trust?" Keanu's eyes darkened with thought. "One person. Her name is Clara. She's a journalist, old school. She's been chasing this corruption for years but never had proof." "Then, she's our next stop," Bella said. They traveled through the night in an old van Marco loaned them. Layla slept in the back seat, her head resting against Bella's shoulder. The rhythm of the road and the safety of being close to people who cared finally allowed her to rest. Keanu drove in silence, his eyes scanning every intersection, every passing vehicle. At dawn, they reached the edge of a small hillside town. Far from the coast, at the top of the hill stood an old stone house with ivy climbing its walls. "This is her place?" Bella asked. Keanu nodded. "She moved out here to stay off the radar." He knocked twice on the wooden door, then once again. A small panel slid open. A pair of sharp eyes looked out. "You brought company," Clara said cautiously. "I brought the truth," Keanu replied. The door opened. Inside, Clara listened in silence as Keanu explained everything. Layla's mother, the files, the men who tried to kill them, and the stolen yacht confrontation. She held the memory chip like it was made of glass. "If even half of this is real," she whispered, "we're looking at the biggest scandal in 20 years. "It's all real," Keanu said. "Every piece." Layla sat at the kitchen table, sipping hot tea with both hands. Bella stayed close, her presence a quiet anchor. Clara stood and opened a hidden compartment behind her bookshelf, revealing a secure computer setup. "I'll need time," she said, "but I'll start analyzing the files immediately." Bella watched her work, then leaned toward Keanu. "What happens when she goes public?" "They'll try to silence her," he said. "And us." Bella looked at Layla, then back at him. "We can't let that happen," Keanu nodded. "Then we protect the story, and the girl." That night they slept in shifts. Keanu stayed near the front windows with a radio. Bella stayed beside Layla, who had begun to open up, sharing stories about her mother, her fears, and how she had run for days before finally reaching the coast. "I kept thinking about him," Layla said quietly. "You," she looked at Bella. "And Keanu. I didn't know if it was real, that someone would actually come." Bella smoothed her hair gently. "We're here, and we're not leaving." But outside, darkness was moving. A black SUV had parked at the base of the hill. Inside it, the scarred man from the gray vessel stared up at the stone house, his jaw tight. They made contact with the reporter. A voice said over his radio. He didn't answer. He just stared. By morning, Clara had found what she needed. She printed out pages of emails, contracts, and audio transcripts. "This is massive," she said, spreading them across the table. "It links a private security firm, multiple foreign investors, and 2 corrupt officials in positions of power." Keanu leaned over the table. "Can we get it to the public safely?" Clara nodded slowly. "I have one channel. It's a live interview with a global platform. If we go on air and—" "Drop this, they can't stop it," Bella asked. "When?" "Tonight," Clara said. "But we'll need to move, and they'll be waiting." As they packed up the files and tech equipment, Clara handed Layla a small locket. "Your mother gave this to me. She said one day you'd need strength." Layla opened it and found a tiny photo. Her mother, smiling. On the back was etched a single word, truth. Tears filled Layla's eyes. Keanu placed a hand on her shoulder. "Your mother would be proud." They loaded into Clara's Jeep and began the long drive to the media center. The road was winding and narrow. The radio stayed quiet. Too quiet. Then suddenly, from behind, headlights appeared. Fast. Bella looked back. "We're being followed." Clara sped up, gripping the wheel tight. Keanu scanned the forest lining the road. "If they try to block us, we'll take the old quarry road. It's rough but short." The SUV behind them picked up speed, swerving closer. "Hold on!" Clara shouted, veering off the main road. The Jeep bounced down a dirt path, gravel kicking up behind them. Layla clung to her seatbelt. Bella kept an arm protectively across. The SUV followed, relentless. "They're not giving up," Keanu growled. "They won't have to," Clara said. "If we reach the signal tower, we can upload everything remotely." She handed Keanu the backup drive. "You'll have to climb the tower, plug it in manually." He nodded. "Done." They reached the tower just as the SUV skidded to a stop behind them. "Go!" Clara shouted. Keanu grabbed the drive and sprinted toward the metal structure, climbing fast. Bella and Clara pulled Layla behind the Jeep as the scarred man stepped out of the SUV. He raised a weapon. "Give me the girl!" Bella stood in front of Layla. "You'll have to go through me." He stepped closer. "Don't test me." Keanu reached the top of the tower and jammed the drive into the control panel. The screen blinked to life, uploading 8%, 24%. The scarred man cocked the weapon. Bella stood firm, eyes locked on his. Then, a loud voice echoed from the tower's speaker. "This is Clara Mendoza reporting live. We have explosive evidence of corruption, abuse of power, and international conspiracy." The scarred man froze. Uploading. 86%. 100%. A light turned green. Keanu's voice echoed down. "It's done." The man dropped his weapon. Sirens blared in the distance. They had made it. As the news exploded across the world, the corrupt fell one by one. Layla's mother's story was heard. The people who had chased her were exposed, and a girl who once slept in the shadows now stood in the light. The light after the storm. 3 weeks had passed since the broadcast. The world had changed. Headlines across the globe carried Clara's story. Government agencies launched investigations. 2 high-ranking officials resigned within days. The private Security firm that had chased Layla was shut down, its leaders arrested. Whistleblower protections were strengthened in countries where silence once ruled. Keanu, Bella, Layla, and Clara had gone into protective seclusion for the first week, watched over by trusted security personnel arranged by Clara's network of allies. They stayed in a quiet mountain retreat, far from cities, far from crowds. But peace, real peace, was slowly returning. On a sunny afternoon, Layla sat in a field of wildflowers, her knees drawn up, the breeze brushing against her face. She held the silver locket around her neck, twisting it gently between her fingers. Bella approached with a picnic basket and set it down beside her. "You haven't said much today," Bella said softly. Layla smiled a little. "I've been thinking. About your mom?" Layla nodded. "She told me the truth always wins, but sometimes I didn't believe her." Bella looked out at the field. "Sometimes the truth needs someone brave enough to carry it." Layla looked up. "You were brave too. So were you," Bella said. "You survived. You chose not to stay silent. That takes a different kind of courage." Layla looked away, her voice smaller. "Do you think she knows?" Bella took her hand. "She knew before any of this started. She knew who you were becoming." They sat in silence, the weight of everything still resting softly between them. Keanu sat on the back porch of the cottage, watching the mountains in the distance. Clara joined him with 2 cups of tea, handing one to him. "So," she said, "are you going back to the movies anytime soon?" He chuckled. "Maybe, or maybe not. I think I found something more real out here." "You've always been real," Clara said. "They just finally got to see it." Keanu sipped his tea. "I used to think helping people meant staying out of the way, writing checks, keeping quiet, but silence has a cost, and you paid it," Clara said. He nodded slowly. "We all did." She leaned back in her chair. "You saved a life, you exposed corruption, and you reminded the world that fame doesn't mean forgetting where you came from." Keanu looked toward the field where Bella and Layla were sitting, their laughter finally returning in small pieces. "Didn't save her," he said. "She saved herself. We just showed up." A few days later, they returned to the coast, not to the luxury marina, but to the quiet beach near the cove where Layla had once hidden. The Starlight yacht had been restored. It waited calmly, anchored just beyond the shore. The crew waved. As Keanu and the others arrived in a small boat, Layla stepped onto the yacht with awe in her eyes. "This is really yours?" Keanu smiled. "It's really yours too now. The sea doesn't belong to anyone. But when you're on it, you learn who you are." They toured the deck together. Bella showed her the upper lounge. Clara took photos for a small follow-up piece she was writing. Not about scandal, but about healing. At sunset, Keanu gathered them on the deck. This yacht was built to be a place of peace. Over the years, I let it become a toy for the rich. But now, we change that. Bella tilted her head. "Change it how?" "From now on," Keanu said, "this yacht will be used for kids who've suffered. Girls like Layla, boys who've been forgotten, veterans, survivors. It'll be their space. Their freedom." Layla's eyes widened. "Really? Really?" Keanu said. "You're the first, and you won't be the last." Weeks turned into months. The Starlight became a symbol, not of wealth, but of hope. Children who had never seen the ocean before stood at its railing, eyes wide. Young survivors learned to swim, to trust, to laugh again. Musicians played under the stars. Storytellers came to share wisdom. Bella stayed on as the heart of it all, managing the journeys, comforting the broken, and lighting up every corner of the deck with her kindness. Layla began painting. Her first canvas was the cave where she had once hidden. She titled it, "The Place Where Truth Was Born." It was displayed in an international exhibit on justice and youth courage. On a quiet morning, Bella found Keanu fixing a railing on the upper deck. She leaned against the wall and watched him work. "Still doing everything yourself?" He smiled. "Some habits die hard. You know," she said softly. I think you saved more than just one girl. He looked up at her. So did you. They stood there for a moment, the breeze carrying the scent of salt and wildflowers. Bella finally spoke again. Do you ever wonder why you swam to that yacht that day? Keanu paused, then nodded. Yeah. Maybe it was more than just curiosity. Maybe I was meant to see what people look like when they think no one is watching. And maybe you were meant to be seen too, she whispered. He met her gaze. You think so? He asked. Bella smiled. I know so. Later that afternoon, the yacht sailed forward under a sky painted with golden rose. Layla stood at the front, the wind lifting her hair, her arms wide open. She had been hunted, broken, almost silenced. But now she was more than a survivor. She was a symbol, because they threw Keanu Reeves into the sea, thinking he was no one. But they didn't know the sea belonged to him, and they didn't know, when you throw kindness overboard, sometimes it swims back stronger.